Hello, my friends. Had I left you on my way to Laval by train and separation from Sandy. I remind you that it was March 1st, 1969. But when I had known her, she had gone back to the USA on March 1st, 1967. And she had returned to Paris on March 1st, 1968. Curious, isn't it? If we write the date 1-3-1967, as in French, we see that it makes 13 repeated 3 times. In the symbolism of numbers that I developed in my book, The Secret of the Apocalypse Extasium, I wrote that this number meant great difficulties, leading to great things. With Sandy, I can say it was a perfect match. So I was on my way to the barracks to do my military service. But before I tell you, I have to say under what circumstances it happened. As I was a student, I was suspended, and after my studies, I could have gone abroad for 2 years within the framework of cooperation. But because of the events of May 68, I had not been able to pass the values that would have allowed me to accede to first class, and my deferment of incorporation had been removed, which did not suit me at all. In addition, the government wanted to take revenge on the student protesters, and lumping everyone together sent me to do my military service in a disciplinary battalion. I absolutely had to succeed in getting myself reformed. Otherwise, I would lose my studio on Gregoire Street. I was going to find a friendly doctor who agreed to give me a medical record that showed I had a serious injury to my right knee. What was true? I had moved a meniscus while playing rugby 7 years earlier, but I couldn't actually feel anything anymore. Armed with this file, I went before the Reform Commission in Versailles after spending a week in the Percy Military Hospital in Clamart. When I arrived at the hospital, the soldier who was filling out my file asked me what my religion was, and I answered him, atheist. I've changed a lot since then, but that's not surprising. An atheist may very well change his mind if proof of divine existence is brought to him. And as far as proof is concerned, I am widely served. This doesn't mean that I became religious. On the contrary, I consider myself to be a technical, scientific, esoteric artist who made a prodigious discovery that made him meet and feel something that I can only call God. Like any artist, I feel the need to share the intense and extraordinary sensation it gives me. This is what I am trying to do by telling in this broadcast how it happened and how I was prepared to accomplish what seems to me to be my missions, and also to describe what this phenomenon gives me as such intense and beneficial effects every day from 5:45 p.m. to 7 p.m. Let's go back to the hospital. Every night I would sneak out and go back to Paris to find Sandy, with whom I was beginning to have a relationship that was more friendly than loving. The doctors declared me fit for service and ordered me to go to a transmission regiment in Laval. But I haven't said my last word. Intentionally, I was going to arrive 3 days late at the barracks, which allowed me to travel with Sandy. I had been eating less and less for the last few days to prepare myself for what I was about to undertake. In Laval, which I only glimpsed, I went to every bistro up to the barracks, but only to drink coffee and make myself feverish. When I got to the guard house, I immediately asked to see a doctor, which didn't surprise the soldiers when they saw what a state of apparent weakness I was in. They were kind enough to support me by taking me by the arms, and we passed in front of the soldiers who were standing at attention as if I was revering them. What I found very tasty deep down inside. In the infirmary, I told the doctor that I was sick with nerves and that I needed to be treated. But as a good soldier, he told me that I had to prove myself. So I put on the uniform and went to the room where we slept on bunk beds. In the day that followed, I stopped eating while at the canteen I had to choose a dish, which seemed very good and which I then gave to my table mates who did not understand why and who even insisted with solicitude that I ate. I was careful not to tell them my reasons. I did all the exercises except for the fighter's course for which I had been exempted because of my knee. I was the good soldier, but sick. The atmosphere was very nice, and I had to force myself to continue my attempt and not give in the good Boy Scout atmosphere. Between the meals, which seems to me like a stage to reach, I dream of all kinds of succulent dishes. To accentuate my dissipate and sickly appearance, I smoke a lot. My mind was very clear, and I didn't feel any real awakening. So I decided to go back to the doctor after 10 days, after preventing myself from sleeping the night before, smoking a lot, and drinking a lot of coffee. This time, he decided to send me to Rennes to consult a neuropsychiatrist. Even before I went, I knew I was going to win. My will not to eat collapsed, and I threw myself on a big sandwich and then beans when I should only have been eating like both. But that's all I had on mind. My return to the toilet after such a long absence was very painful. Night, still without sleep. I smoke a lot and drink very cold Nescafe to make me feverish and tense. It's disgusting. Journey in the car in a tarpaulin-covered truck to Rennes. The waiting room is full of young recruits who could have let me through, but on purpose I come last. I bat all my knees except one of each hand so that you can see that the others are beaten. When the doctor sees me, he looks at me like he's still saying it's funny. I sit on the edge of the chair in the fetal positions and rub my hand nervously. I look the doctor in the eyes. I am a sick person trying to help him cure me. He asks me a lot of questions and tries to trick me with technical questions like that. Do you think you're neurotic? And I answer him by asking him to tell me exactly what this term means. Then he changes the subject. He can't pin me down because everything I tell him is true. Only it didn't happen to me. And I turn a bad mood into a deep depression. I tell him that my fiancée is black and I don't need to add any more for this racist soldier. I started to have fun And I was completely improvising by telling him that I had sexual problems. He immediately changed the subject. He signed me a realizable permission to appear before a reform commission 3 weeks later on the grounds of schizoid character. As I walk out of his office, I can see in his eyes that he says to himself, "Poor guys, so young." Back to the barracks, then directly to the train. And the same evening I arrive in Bagneux with my parents who cannot believe it. After 3 weeks, I have to put on the uniform again and appear before the committee. There, a captain is holding 2 tampons in his hand, and I am in a cold sweat when I hear him ask which one to put on. One is reform, the other is good for service. If it's wrong, I'm screwed, because when you know the heaviness of the army, no way to change if you make a mistake. He was not mistaken, and I was reformed. It was a complete victory, not only over the army, but especially over myself. I had proved to myself that I could have the strength to go through with whatever I set out to do, no matter how difficult it was, which served me greatly in the quest for Extasium much later. While I was told it was impossible, I was able to do it, and I succeeded